18 months ago, I made 20 jars of fermented foods in 1 week. Kimchi, sauerkraut, pickled onions, kefir. My kitchen smelled like a biology experiment. Probably went a bit overboard. But here's the thing. 3 months later, my inflammation dropped 84%. CRP, that's C-Reactive Protein, it measures systemic inflammation, went from 6.2 to 1, near zero inflammation. I was already off all my meds. My digestion was steadier than it had been in years, and I didn't have a clue why it worked until Tim Spector and Nicola Segata published the largest microbiome study in history. 34,000 people published in Nature. That's the scientific Oscars. And it explained a lot about what happened to me. Turns out your gut microbiome is 70% unique. Not 10%, not 30%, 70%. Which means generic diet advice, it's guessing. Your gut bacteria are as unique as your fingerprints. So January 2025, I'd been fasting for months, lost weight, come off my statins, felt better, but my digestion was still a bit all over the place. Tim Spector kept banging on about fermented foods, gut bacteria, microbiome diversity. I'd heard it, nodded along, done things about it, but then I thought, sod it, let's actually try this properly. So I made 20 fermented food recipes in 1 week. Probably excessive, Mrs. thought I'd lost it, but I wanted variety, different bacteria strains, not just the same salad dressing or yogurt every morning. Kimchi with ginger, sauerkraut with caraway seeds, pickled red onions, kefir. Some worked, some didn't, let's say. But I kept going. 1 or 2 forkfuls with every meal, mainly just on the side of salad like a coleslaw, not a huge amount, but just consistent. And within 3 weeks, my digestion had calmed down. Not perfect, but it was steadier. There was less bloating. My bowel movements felt like they were a bit more regular. Energy was less spiky throughout the day. I couldn't prove why, I just knew something had shifted. Just before I started, I had a health checkup in January 2025. My blood test, CRP, came back at 6.2. That's inflammation. Technically normal, anything under 10 is fine apparently, but 6.2 isn't ideal, it's mid-range. 3 months later, April 2025, I had another blood test. CRP was 1, near zero inflammation, an 84% drop in 3 months, and the only difference in that 3 months was the addition of fermented food. My GP actually looked twice at the screen and said, bloody hell, what have you been doing? I told her 17/7 fasting, non-UPF eating, fermented foods every day, sleep discipline, nothing extreme, just consistent. She said, well, whatever it is, keep doing it. But here's what bothered me. I didn't have proof. I hadn't tested my actual gut bacteria. I didn't do a Zoe test, no microbiome snapshot. I just followed the blueprint that these experts had given. And I got the results that they predicted and assumed it was working, which is fine, I suppose. Results matter. I felt better. Inflammation dropped. I was off all my meds. Job done. But I couldn't tell you which bacteria I had or which ones were missing, or whether my gut was actually healthy or just less broken than before. That's the gap. And this new research from Tim Spector and Nicola Segata, it explains the mechanism, why fermented foods work, why diversity matters, and why I probably shouldn't assume I'm sorted just because I feel better. Let's just talk about what they found. Tim Spector and Nicola Segata just published research in Nature. 34,000 people, that's 34 times larger than the previous record for a microbiome study. And they're already working on a 250,000 people study. This isn't a small trial, this is a breakthrough scale. The kind that lets you see patterns you couldn't see before. The headline, your gut microbiome is 70% unique. Human DNA, 99.5% identical between people. Even identical twins share almost all their genes, but gut bacteria, 70% different. Person to person, which explains why identical twins respond differently to the same diet. Why your mate loses weight on keto and you don't. Why generic diet advice fails. Because you're not feeding your gut, you're feeding someone else's blueprint. They've now identified 50 good bugs and 50 bad bugs. Rank them and link them to cardiometabolic health, heart disease, diabetes risk, obesity, and they've created a gut health score. like blood pressure for stroke risk, except it's the ratio of good bugs to bad bugs. For the first time, we can track gut health over time, not just guess. You take a snapshot of your microbiome and it tells you moderately healthy, poor, terrible, really good, like an MOT for your gut. They discovered a new bacteria never seen before. They called it SGB 15249. It's apparently part of the Ruminicus family, and it's the top ranked one for cardiometabolic health, most associated with healthy diet and favourable outcomes. Traditional methods missed it completely. They only found it because of the scale of this study, which means there's probably more we haven't found yet. Think of your gut like the Friday night pub. You want regulars from all walks of life: builders, teachers, pensioners, students, office workers. That diversity, that resilience. If the students all leave town, one bacteria strain dies off, the pub survives. You've still got the builders and pensioners. Monoculture gut, that's a student-only pub. Term ends, the pub's empty. The landlord goes bust. Diversity isn't a luxury, it's survival. And that's what the research proves. The healthiest guts have the most diverse bacteria. 30 different plant foods per week. That's feeding different pub regulars. Now here's the nuance. Even if you eat perfectly, you might still have bad bugs without knowing. I ate well for 18 months, fermented foods, daily plant diversity, non-UPF eating. And in the end, the inflammation dropped 84%. Over 3 months, I felt better. But I never actually tested my actual gut, so I don't know if I've got the 50 good bugs or 40 or 20. I don't know which bad bugs are still lurking. I'm flying blind. And that's fine, I suppose. Results matter. I'm off all my meds, and my digestion is seriously steady. But here's the thing. The research also proves that eating well definitely reduces bad bugs. People who follow this blueprint, fermented foods, plant diversity, non-UPF eating, their gut health scores improve. The ratio shifts. Good bugs go up, bad bugs go down. So even without testing, you are stacking the odds in your favour. Testing would be nice, give me specifics, but the blueprint works whether you test or not. That's what the scale of this study proves. Your gut bacteria are fighting inflammation and bad bacteria daily. It's a siege. Fermented foods, sauerkraut, kefir, kimchi, natural yogurt, that's sending reinforcements to the front line. One forkful of sauerkraut, 10 billion backup troops arriving in. Probiotic pills, 10 billion troops in a cardboard box that might arrive, they might not. They might be dead on arrival. Fresh fermented food is live troops, guaranteed delivery, ready to fight immediately. So what do you actually do with this? Start with one fermented food daily. Pick your fighter. Sauerkraut and scrambled eggs at breakfast. Kimchi with your lunch. Cheese sandwich. Salad. Whatever. Kefir in a smoothie. 1 tablespoon. 2 if you're feeling brave. Don't go overboard like I did. Your gut needs time to adapt. And here's why it works. You're not just eating food, you're introducing new tenants, better behaved ones. They move in, start renovating. Tim Spector's research backs this up. Microbiome diversity improves within weeks of dietary change. I felt it by week 3. My digestion was steadier, energy was a little bit less spiky. Still not perfect, but the garden is growing. Long term, aim for 30 different plant foods per week. That's veg, fruit, nuts, seeds, herbal spices. Each one feeds different pub regulars. Fermented foods daily, at least 1, ideally 3. Non-UPF eating, real food, not packets. And if you're serious, get your guts tested, whether it's Zoe or similar. Find out which bugs you actually have, which ones are missing, because guessing is fine, but knowing, that's better. Your gut bacteria consumes 5 to 10% of all the food you eat. You're not just eating for yourself, you're feeding 2 entities, you and your microbiome. And 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. So if your gut's a mess, your immune system's compromised. Inflammation climbs, your disease risk climbs. Fix the gut. Everything else follows. That is what 18 months of doing this has taught me. And this research really explains why. Your gut's an allotment. When it's tended, diverse crops, regular watering, weeding every week, it thrives. But if you neglect it for years, and I did, weeds take over, soil's depleted, Good plants are choked out. Fermented foods and plant diversity, that's seeding the soil, pulling the weeds, getting the allotment back to productive. And if you're thinking about making changes to your diet, especially if you're on your medication like I was, please do speak to your GP first. This is educational content, it's not medical advice. But if you've been wondering why generic diet advice doesn't work for you, this is why. Your gut is 70% unique. Feed it properly and everything else will change. I'll see you in the next one.